Tonight to order. If we should encounter an emergency situation, we will exit the building. There's 2 sets of doors off of our lobby, and if for some reason those are not available, there's another exit behind council. Our muster point is located near the gazebo in Lions Park, and if we are evacuated for any reason, we will not re-enter the building until we're given an all clear from staff. Next, we'll move to our land acknowledgement. Councillor Mearns.
The town of Sylvan Lake acknowledges with deep respect that we are gathered on Treaty 6 territory, which is also the ancestral homeland of the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. These lands hold significant historical and cultural significance, serving as traditional meeting grounds, vital gathering places, and crucial travel routes for numerous Indigenous nations, including the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Métis, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux. We are profoundly grateful for the invaluable contributions of the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who continue to guide us and remember those who have passed, leaving behind a legacy of wisdom and understanding. In our recognition, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to the countless First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples whose enduring presence has permanently imprinted these lands with their rich heritage dating back centuries.
Thank you, Councillor Mearns. Next, we've got our proclamation tonight, and it is for Lights On After School Alberta Day, which is April 21st to April 27th. And it is as follows. Whereas Lights On After School Alberta is a province-wide initiative celebrating school-age care programs and their role in keeping kids safe, inspiring them to learn, and supporting working families. And whereas after-school programs build stronger communities by bringing together families, schools, and community partners to ensure the well-being of our children. And whereas working families have peace of mind knowing their school-age children are safe and productive before and after their regular school day. And whereas after-school programs focus on developing skills and building resilience in our young people, giving them the tools to become responsible and engaging members of our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Megan Hansen, Mayor of Sylvan Lake, do hereby proclaim the date of April 21st to 27th, 2025 to be Lights On After School Alberta Day in the town of Sylvan Lake. Thank you. I'm going to go off script before we go to open microphone because I love to keep us on our toes here. And I just want to mention 2 things. This is the first council meeting, a formal regular meeting of council that we've had since our new CAO has joined us. I know you were here for our committee of the whole meeting, which is a little bit less formal, but Dawn Phillips joins us as of April 1st, and it's been great to have you here the last couple of weeks and appreciate that you're here to guide us through this meeting. We have a lot more questions at this meeting than we do at committee of the whole, so buckle up. The other thing I just wanted to note was the town of Sylvan Lake was a recipient of an award last week. Councillor Rilling and Councillor Dakin were at the Economic Developers Association of Alberta conference, and they were there when the town of Sylvan Lake was awarded the Small Community Regional Collaboration and Partnership Project Award for our innovative 90-minute Miracle Digital Labor Force Attraction campaign. And I think this was really neat, and why it drew in the excitement of our peers at this conference was because it's something that we worked with our 6 local developers to partner with, who not only funded the initiative together, but they also received custom toolkits to amplify our outreach. So it's a great project. I don't think we've ever done anything in collaboration with developers like that before. I think it might have been a brainchild that came through our DIAC committee, and it's really great to see the work of us gathering people together coming to fruition, and nice to be able to receive some hardware for that. So congratulations to Amanda Mercer, our Economic Development Officer, and everyone else who participated in that. All right, now we'll go back on script. Next up, we have open microphone. This is an opportunity for a member of the public to express his or her feedback on an issue pertaining to the town. Open microphone is limited to a maximum of 15 minutes, and each speaker is limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. After the presentation, members of council will ask only questions of clarifications. You will not receive a response or feedback from council immediately after your presentation. Items that require a response will be brought forward at a future date. And we had 2 sign-ups for open microphone tonight. The first one is Mr. Kluchak. Mrs. I am so sorry. Welcome. You can settle in. There's a round button in the center of your microphone that you can press, and the timer will beep a whole bunch of times, so just wait until that's finished, and then we're happy to hear from you. And you'll see the countdown going once that finishes its beeping.
Well, good evening, Mayor Hansen, council members, and other attendees. My name is Phil Kluchuk, and my husband and I have lived in Sylvan Lake since January 2021. Homeowners and residents of only one home. I have attended a number of council meetings in the past few months, and I'd like to say to all mayor and council members, thank you for what you do, what we know, and what we don't know, your commitments and your dedication. So thank you. I've been speaking to residents in Sylvan in the last few months, and there's a huge concern regarding many things. The increase in building additional apartment blocks, infrastructure covers many categories, increase in our property taxes has been one of the main concerns. Residents that have lived here a number of years have said their taxes have increased 60% in the last 9 years. This comes from their mouths, not from information that I gathered. Residents have voiced their opinions, and I've asked them to make themselves known and make themselves present. Can you see them in the room? Not. Their opinions and options were as follows when I talked to various people. Taxing the builders, the apartment buildings, owners and builders, more, and to put a hold on apartment building that will add more stress on our existing infrastructure. Another suggestion was, if you don't live in the residence, perhaps paying more taxes than the residents that live in their own home, whatever their home is, a condo, house, in Sylvan Lake. Another one, and perhaps is a sensitive thought, to increase the taxes of Airbnb renters. Our mandatory water conservation that was in effect in 2024 and now is in place again in April 1st of 2025, again affecting infrastructure and much concern of the residents. Today you are deciding on changes to the 2025 budget. Considering 6 options, I was glad when the second time the budget decision came to council table and you guys put it on park. I was impressed. A potential increase or not is to be put into place. So that is on the table, and my understanding is today will be made a decision of adjustments. This is my opinion and the overall opinion of residents that own one home, live in the home, and some have mortgages. If you own and are not a resident, you are renting to individuals or a company that should pay more taxes. That was what many, many people are putting forth. Please, in your decision, consider the existing residents that live in their own home in making your choice tonight. Vote on what is right for our community today and know the future. Make decisions with your conscience and with the information that you have at present. Information will change, and I do know that. So thank you for your consideration, for your discussions, and for the community that is looking to you for the decisions to grow us the way we should grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions to ask? Seeing none. Thank you very much for your presentation. And we have one more registered open mic tonight. Mr. Collins. Welcome. How is everybody? Good. Saw the lawn being mowed up recently. Good.
Yeah, I was wondering about seeking funding from the province for a museum, and I don't know the process or what it would take, but I think it would be really cool to have a museum in the old council chambers over there. I think you could probably, you know, get a few dollars from tourists, because I think it would be really cool to have a museum in this town. I don't think there's ever been one in the last many years. But if you do, I would volunteer, and I've got a bunch of things I could donate because my house is kind of like a museum. So, yeah. I just want to bring up the pro-Palestinian protests. While the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the right to peaceful assembly, there really isn't a definition that determines exactly what peaceful assembly means outside of your basic no violence, blah, blah, blah. So it's a little bit subjective. But in the last year, there has been major pro-Palestinian protests in Canada, in Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, Halifax, Edmonton, Fredericton, St. John's, Nanaimo, Antigonish, Yellowknife, Corner Brook, and Belleville. Calgary had one on April 13th of this year, and Edmonton had one on April 12th. I don't know what you guys, or what the town has in the way of bylaws, rules, and bylaws and such like that, but if you have been paying attention or following anything that goes on with these protests out east, they're massive, and the police do nothing but arrest journalists and anybody carrying a Canadian flag. So I think there maybe should be, you should maybe consider something for the area down there, which would be a great place for pro-Palestinians to come and protest. And it's nice to see that Calgary and Edmonton, the police did do something about it. They didn't let it go like they do out east. And if we don't nip it in the bud now, it's going to turn into what it is there. So if you can look at your rules, laws, and bylaws and come up with something that, so that can't happen. Because I got to be quite honest with you, if I'm happen to be in town when one of them is going on, I'm going to be down there with my Alberta flag and my bullhorn, and you know, I'm going to do what I need to do because I don't think we need that kind of stuff in Alberta. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation. Thank you. All right, we'll move along to adoption of the agenda. Would someone like to, do we have any additions? Ms. Phillips, to the agenda. Councillor Railing would love to make that motion.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Excellent. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Would someone like to make, consent agenda? Consent agenda is a tool used to increase meeting efficiency. In order to use this tool, any items that we have extensive questions on or would like to be pulled off for discussion, we need to do that before the motion is made. So council, is there any items? Councillor Payne?
No, but within the consent agenda motion is all of the minutes, the council minutes, right? But then we also have the adoption of the minutes immediately. Well, yeah, okay. So there's an issue with the regular meeting of council minutes for March 24th.
Sure, let's pull that one off.
I already told Joe. It's already been addressed, but there's a slight problem.
I think that we should pull that one from consent and then we can just, you can mention that afterwards. Okay. So, any other ones we'd like to pull off? All right, would someone like to make a motion excluding the minutes from the 24th? Councillor Dakin, thank you.
I will anytime make the long one. Bear with me because this is quite long. I move that the 2025-313 special meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented, and that the 2025 March 19th meeting minutes of council meeting minutes be approved as presented. Sorry, special meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented. That the 2025 March 25th special meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented. That the 2025 April 2nd committee of the whole meeting minutes be approved as presented. And that council approve first reading to amending bylaw 1923-2025, being an amendment to the procedure bylaw 1886-2023 pursuant to AIR 1010. And finally, that council approve first reading of the fees and charges bylaw 1925-2025 as outlined in AIR 1136.
One more on the back.
And there's one more on the back. And finally, that council approves leave of absence by Mayor Hansen for the committee of the whole meeting on April 2nd, 2025 for the purpose of council-related business.
Thank you, Councillor Dakin. I appreciate the monologue to start every meeting. You're great at it. Any additional comments, council? All those in favor and opposed? That is carried unanimously. Councillor Payne, can you tell us out of items 6, C, what did you catch?
Page 15, the 2025 operating budget approval motion. The results of the motion are incorrect. It actually has Councillor Estindi being in favor, but he was actually absent.
Great. Would someone like to make a motion that we approve these council meetings with that amendment? Councillor Payne, you caught it.
I was channeling my inner Chris Lust when I found that, so.
Well
I'm
done.
just, yeah, I'll move to approve the March 24th, 2025 regular meeting of council minutes as amended.
Excellent. All those in favor and opposed? That is carried unanimously. All right, move along to business item 7A, visitor pay parking program. Mr. Lebsack.
Hello, Your Worship and Council. So what we have brought before you today is, pardon me, is an information report towards expanding the visitor paid parking program to include 50th Avenue and to include Pogettle Park. So as we all remember, at the March 24th meeting, we brought forward a report on the 2024 program, and at that time, Council asked staff to look at paid parking on 50th Avenue and Pogettle Park, which we have included kind of as a chart to make it a little bit easier to understand. We will move over to that chart right away. And so we broke it down into sections just so it could be either broken into these individual sections or lumped all together if council wished. But these were the most logical ways of breaking up 50th Avenue. So we went from 40th Street to Lakeshore Drive, which is the whole area in front of Cottage District. And we looked at that. So we could add an additional roughly 170 stalls. Projected revenue per year would be about $102,000. And then what we also added there, some information for council to consider. So I won't go over each one of those individually, but those are some of the things that, I guess from administration's point of view, the main one to point out there is just the distance that it would take for someone to walk to get to free parking. So we've kind of always utilized, especially from administration or if our officers are approached on the street, you know, the argument that, wow, there's no free parking anywhere. At this point in time, we always have free parking roughly 1 block away from it, anywhere you'd want to go on the beach. That to me would be kind of the main impetus for or the main objective there for that portion of 40th Street to Lakeshore Drive would just be if they wanted to park for free, which there's still ample parking there along the railway track. It could be a 8 to 10 to 12 block walk, depending on how far down the beach they want it to go. If they're just simply heading straight down to 40th and Centennial Park, it's still a 1 block walk for them to get there. So that's just kind of what administration brought up there. Again, 46 to 40th, I mean, additional 90 stalls, seeing roughly $54,000 in parking. The 50th to 46th Street, roughly 40 stalls, which would be approximately $24,000 in parking. And then west of 50th, so 53rd to 50th, 104 approximate stalls there at 62,400 stalls. So again, we've added just a few little notes for council there in those sections, but that roughly is the breakdown for the 50th Avenue parking. And then we looked at Pogettle Park. We've added a little bit more detail there because we haven't presented Pogettle Park to council before. So there's roughly 72 stalls in and around the spray park. That does not take into consideration the ones farther south. That would be adjacent to the campground and the future turf football soccer field there. These are just the ones that are around the spray park. Again, anywhere from $7,300 to about $17,000, kind of depending on how council wanted to go about it, whether it's free parking during ball games again as well, or whether there's no free parking during ball games, because that parking area does fill up during Gulls games, that kind of thing. Without any real data on the spray park users, we have created 2 scenarios based on some assumptions. One is 10 vehicles per day being visitors requiring payment, and the second one is 5 visitors per day being visitors requiring payment. Again, what I just spoke about with Gulls Games and not having any real good raw data on the visitors that are going to the spray park. Based on a high of 75% of the days in the summer and a low of 65% of the days in the summer, having people parking there or the spray park being open, that's where we've estimated between 295 and 340 parking sessions per summer that would require payment for parking. And then the one thing that we brought up from administration is enforcement. Would also be a consideration for council. A strain on enforcement is that we would be leaving the downtown or cabin area where a lot of times we'll take one vehicle down there and have foot patrols all day long. So they would be leaving downtown, driving up to Pogattle Park, doing a tour up there of parking enforcement, and then heading back down. So again, up and down, leaving the facility, or leaving the downtown for a while before they go back. So again, that is essentially what administration has put together for kind of the application of paid parking. And I guess where we landed from administration is, our recommendation is that administration respectfully recommends the council make no changes to the visitor paid parking program for 2025. And certainly that's not reflective on 2026 or beyond, but at this stage, that's our recommendation for 2025. And we're open for questions.
Excellent. Let's start with questions, and then we'll get into a bit of process here. Do we have any questions to start? Councillor Rilling.
So if we were to say, yes, we wanted it done, what is the, like, how long does it take to, I mean, there's a lot to order, there's a lot of things that we have to put in place. Would it be possible to do for this year?
Through the chair, yes, it would certainly be possible. The system itself is in place.
Okay.
So there's no changes needed to our system, to our hotspot system.
Okay.
The only thing it would again be ordering signage and getting signage installed. Realistically, if we want to talk timelines, that's a short timeline. We can probably have signage done in 2 to 3 weeks. And then if we put an emphasis on it, I mean, it's going to take 2 or 3 days to get signage installed, that kind of thing. So to answer your question, yes, it could be done this year.
Well, I just look at the amount that it could, you know, revenue for the town, just not Pogattle Park included, but that's over 240,000 for this, just that one street. And I mean, if there's anything that we hear from residents is, you know, we need to make sure we're charging our visitors, because at least that's what I hear, because it costs us, right? And so just a thought.
So we'll go with any more questions. And then if not, I guess I'll ask, does council have any objections to suspending our regular procedure here? And rather than starting with a motion, we can just walk through section by section and then creating a motion either as is or together at the end. Councillor Payne, do you have a concern?
Why do we have to suspend the regular procedure? Let's just do that anyhow. Do the motion, and then if we have to change the motion, change the motion.
But we don't need to, I guess is what I'm saying, and then we don't have to try and change it and do amendments.
Well, I'd rather just not change things for the sake of changing things. Doesn't make sense.
Okay. Would you like to start with a motion then?
Sure, I move that council make no changes to the visitor paid parking program for 2025 as per the information presented in report AIR 1138.
Excellent. I still think that we should go through section by section, so
Yeah.
let's do that. First section we've got is 40th Street to Lakeshore Drive. Do we have any comments on that? Any appetite or no interest? Councillor Dakin.
I do not like that the residents will have concerns. I instantly wrote down sticker. I'm sure we've talked about sticker before when it comes to parking. If they could come and pick up a sticker and you could have one vehicle parked in front of your house. I don't know how much that would cost. It might be a nightmare for you. So yeah, I'm down for 40th Street to Lakeshore Drive. Yes. But I'm still pro sticker so that somebody could park in front.
Councillor Payne.
I think the difficulty here is the system that we use doesn't have tags or hangers that, and I think that would be a really quick fix for that objection. If we had mirror hanger tags that could be held with a QR code on it or whatever the case is. As it is now, if you have someone who's, somebody visiting you, you have to go through the process of registering them online, and that's kind of a pain in the rear. If someone's coming to visit you for a day, you know, instead of coming for a week. So I don't like the idea of having this in residential areas. I just think that it's creating difficulty where difficulty doesn't have to necessarily be created. So if we can come up with a fix, come up with a way to deal with that objection, because I think unlike a lot of objections, which are really just NIMBY objections, I don't want it happening in my space, this is one that I think is going to happen in everyone's space who lives in that area. And I think if you go through the rest of the residential areas where this is a possibility, it's going to consistently be the same problem. So we'd have to come up with a way to deal with that objection.
Although I would comment, I have different opinions on different sections, but overall, I don't mind not having that, because you do have the option of, if I'm the homeowner, my vehicle's already registered, I could just park on the street, and because every property has to have so many parking spaces on site, if I didn't want to register my guests, they could just park in my driveway. And you have that option, plus your 4 street parking on top of however many your home has, which is most homes between 2 and 4 on-site parking stalls as is. So I think we have quite a bit of flexibility. Many homes would then be allowed 8 vehicles there. So, Councillor Mearns.
Do we have, and I should know this, but I don't, other residential areas with paid parking currently?
Through the chair, so the Cottage District, the Downtown District, West Village District, we call it, everything kind of north of the tracks until you get to Marina Bay. So Marina Bay, Hewlett Park is not, but everything within that other district is, yes.
Putting you on the spot, the volume of complaints we get in regards to, you know, friends or relatives not being able to park out there without paying?
Again, through the chair, minimal. I don't know that there would be enough to even record. The only complaints that we would get in those areas would be from businesses. So we have the doctor's office, we have, well, there's the church on the same street. Those are the kind of areas that we get the complaints from, not from individual residents.
Any additional comments? We've got one in support. Councillor Mearns.
Based on that, you know, that's a large sum of money. That's something I would support. And further to Mayor Hansen's comment that I didn't even think about, you know, the ability for the resident to park on the street and someone else to park in the driveway. And I know there's a back alley in those areas as well. So there's opportunities as well for friends or family to park there. So I would support 40th Street to Lakeshore Drive based on those items.
Any additional, I'll add in mine. I also am supportive of it. I know that this is going to be a challenge, but I really struggle when we, you know, at the end of this can raise an additional over $100,000 just from this strip that doesn't have to come out of tax dollars, that is only having residents pay for it. We say we're looking at additional revenue opportunities. This one is just so easy because we know that our residents aren't going to have to pay this additional tax. It alleviates some money elsewhere, and I think it's wise. I think there's many communities that have this throughout most of their town, their downtown. Even you go to Red Deer or many of our neighbors. So it is something, and there they tax their residents. I think it's such a novel thing that we don't. So many other communities ask me all the time, how did you guys get that sort of a deal for your residents? So I think it's great. I'll add my name to the list of support. Okay. Councillor Parsons?
Torn. I'm torn. I feel like I want to leave everything as it is, as per recommendations. But if I was going to do one, that would be the one. But, so, I want to go with staff recommendation, no.
Sure. Counselor Payne, do you have a thought either way?
I don't mind the idea of along 50th Ave being paid parking. I do think we're gonna have more problems than we're anticipating. I really do. I think it's not been a problem space now because it's not a problem space. It will be when it's paid. I think we'll get a lot more complaints.
Okay, was that a yes or no?
Wasn't really either one.
Okay, then that's why I didn't pick it up. I can leave you off the hook, though. We do have 4 yes for that category, so.
If I was to pick any of these spaces that I would be okay with it, that would probably be the one that I'd be okay with, but it would be a real tentative okay. I'd almost have to hear some better arguments as to why we should.
Okay. Let's go to the next one, 46th Street to 40th. Do we have any appetite here? Councillor Dakin?
Yes, actually, I definitely would. St. George Street. The only one that I'm no to is 50th Street to 46th Street in Pagano Park. That's it.
Okay.
Just to summarize.
Yep.
Sorry, Tim just asked me what was that, so I'll just say it on the mic. Is that okay?
Let's go down one by one. Then I can keep in order what the yeses and nos are for a motion in the end, if that's okay. So 46th to 40th, Councillor Mearns. I'm just going to start from one end and go to the other.
I think we should take little bites, so I'm not in support of that one at this time.
Okay. Rilling?
I'm not either.
I also, I'm actually really interested next year potentially in these next couple, but there's some logistics around the businesses that I think we need a bit more consultation before I would be comfortable. Parsons?
Yeah, no. Not in support.
Payne?
I think many of these that are just essentially businesses, I don't think we should do anything to impede that. The 40th Street to Lakeshore Drive is almost all residential, you know, until you get to the very end of it. So, like, I have less of an issue. But I'm not in support at all of putting paid parking in front of those businesses.
Let's jump to 50th to 46th. Quick round to, no, Councillor Rilling? No. Also no. Great, 53rd to 50th. Let's start with Councillor Payne.
No.
No.
I'm an okay here. Yeah. Only because the truck and trailer parking, I know is a bit of a challenge, but doesn't matter how many spaces you take up, is my understanding that you're just charged for one spot. Is that correct, Mr. Lebsack?
Your worship, on that street, yes.
On that
That's
street.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Dakin?
Yeah, I'm a yes for this, for sure. It doesn't impede businesses in that way. I do understand that it would impede the launch. But I'm a business that has parking in front of my business, and I hated it at first, and then you get used to it, right? You find solutions, so, yeah.
Councillor Rilling?
Yes. Sorry. I was like, what did I?
Mearns?
Yeah, I'm in favor along that way, especially on the south side of that road. It doesn't affect anything. So I think that's a prime opportunity.
That's great. And the dollar amount is enticing. Councillor Payne?
Yeah, but it's where everyone parks who can't find parking on 50th Street. Everyone parks either there or in the free parking on the other side. So, like, I see that as being, you know, one of the only opportunities for people who are going to those businesses. Because in the summer, there's no parking from that intersection north. There's no opportunity. So by stripping that out, you're basically doing the same thing. So I think those businesses, especially those ones that are consistently hurting on the south end of that downtown section, you know, I think that's where, you know, I think that's where we're gonna hurt those. The Cobb's parking lot is always full. You know, everything around there is always full. So, yeah, I think we're doing the same thing here. It's just not a business right in front of it. Well, there's a couple of businesses right in front of it. I don't think so.
Sure. Any other comments or any changes, Councillor Burns? We do have enough for a yes on that one. Pugado Park. Start with Councillor Payne.
No. Not yet.
I'm a yes here. I know I'm an island.
Me too. No.
Oh, you got me excited for a second.
I mean, I'm an island, but this is a no.
Not yet.
Not yet.
You win some, you lose some, guys. Okay. We have two areas that we have interest here. Help me with the process in how we have a motion on the floor that is not these two items. Where do we go?
I would recommend you vote on the motion on the floor, since it wouldn't be an amendment, because the new motions are very different from the one on the floor.
And then we'll have a
And then
supplementary
if that,
motion.
assuming is defeated, then you'd make another motion.
Great. Councillor Mearns has a motion, or Councillor Payne has a motion on the floor to make no changes to the visitor pay parking program for 2025. All those in favor? And yes. And opposed? And that is defeated. Councillor Parsons was the one who voted in favor, just for the record on that. Would someone like to make a follow-up motion? Councillor Mearns, yeah.
I agree.
Can we just, for clarity, before we do that, we're talking about 40th Street to Lakeshore, 53rd Street to 50th? Sorry.
Correct.
I hate these mics. Have for 12 years. 40th Street to Lakeshore and 53rd Street to 50th Street are the two that are being taken out.
Councillor Mearns, go ahead.
I make a motion that council approve visitor pay parking program for 2025 in addition to 40th Street to Lakeshore Drive and 53rd Street to 50th Street.
Excellent. I do have a question that comes around this. This is obviously, and I think we should always be modest on our budget expectations on this, but this is not $2,000 that we're expecting in revenue. This is a substantial amount. Now, there's some costs for signage. How do we account for that in our budget decisions?
I won't put Mr. Moore on the spot. All I will say is that we will bring forward a budget adjustment with some formal paperwork of some kind that Mr. Moore has for me, and we will make that formal budget adjustment at a later date.
Okay, excellent. Do we have any other questions on Councillor Mearns' motion for the 40th Street to Lakeshore Drive and 53rd to 50th Street areas? Yes.
Just for clarity, and maybe within the motion, to include to start effective this season, and that way there's the clear direction for administration to order signs.
Yes, I will add that, effective for this season.
Excellent. We have that motion on the floor. All those in favor and opposed? Okay. I don't know what we have to do there process-wise, but can we just dial that back? Not everyone voted, so we don't have a complete vote. With your microphone on.
I still have difficulty with, when we're putting these things together, unfortunately, there's no opportunity for debate in this sense now. Because I agree with one, I would happily vote for one. I disagree with the other. So in my situation, I have to vote against it, even though I'm in support of one, not the other. So that's a difficulty that I don't like.
Yes.
Councillor Payne, you could request to split the vote, or split the question, so that each are voted on separately.
I think that would be a good thing, if we can.
Yeah.
If we can split to have 40th Street to Lakeshore Drive, separated from 53rd Street to 50th Street.
So we'll have Councillor Mearns make two separate motions there.
Do we need two separate motions or just the question separated out?
Two separate motions. Yeah.
Okay. Can I make a friendly amendment to split those out? Or does that, no?
I would just
Okay.
restate, what is the first motion that you'd like to propose, Councillor Mearns? We'll make sure we're clear here.
Sure. I make the motion that council change the visitor pay parking program for 2025 effective this year to include 40th Street to Lakeshore Drive.
Excellent. Is there any further discussion we'd like to have on that item? All right, all those in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Thank you for holding your hand high. Councilor Merz, would you like to make another motion?
I sure would. Make a motion that council make changes to the visitor pay parking program for 2025 effective this year to include paid parking from 53rd Street to 50th Street.
Excellent. Any additional discussion? Councilor Dakin.
Yes, I just want to say that what Councilor Reeling said earlier is that our community has always asked us to try to find ways to get the most we can from our tourists. And I think that this is a great jump in that direction. So that's why, although again, the business side of it, I say that this is important.
Yeah. Councilor Payne.
I think, again, just to restate my previous argument, from the business side of it, I don't want to do anything more to impede the business that's struggling to survive. We just had another one go, you know, and I think anything we're doing to impede that is active on our part.
Councilor Parsons?
And I'm just, I went with administration, put a lot of thought and work into it, to me, it's all just a little, this was a big step when we did it, and it was huge, and it's gone over remarkably well. I don't want to push it and push it and push it until it becomes an issue with the businesses and business community. But that being said, it is a lot of money, and I understand that portion of it, but I'm also very pro, you know, the Lakeshore and the what it means to our community. That's all.
Any additional comments or discussions? Councilor Reeling.
Well, when I look at that section, right across the street from it is the parking lot, isn't it? Yeah, but that's all free. So to me, there's more free parking across from those businesses than any other businesses. So that's why I don't have a problem saying yes.
That's fair. All right, seeing no other hands, we have a motion on the floor from Councilor Mearns to include the 53rd to 50th Street portion into our paid parking program, our visitor paid parking program. All those in favor? And opposed? And that motion is carried. Thank you. I'll just close with, I really appreciate the options on this, and I hope that this is just something we continually talk about every year because things will change. I think we certainly heard, especially on some of those areas, there's some more work with the businesses that we need to do over probably a number of years. So I hope that conversation continues and maybe there's some different solutions in future years, or maybe this is a terrible idea and we need to dial it back next year. So appreciate that every year we get an opportunity to look at this because it's a program that's been continually changing. It certainly hasn't been static since we implemented it a number of years ago. So thank you. All right, let's move along to item number 7D, the 2025 operating budget approval. Mr. Moore.
Good evening, Mayor Hansen and Council. Yeah, with this first report from Corporate Services tonight, we're looking for Council to approve the 2025 operating budget. I won't go into all the background discussion as it was discussed at the March 24th regular meeting of Council, and at that meeting, option 1 was the preferred option by Council, and so we've done that. We've made those changes, and the budget before you is based on that option for tax rates, revenue, and other changes, expense changes as well. A summary of those changes is attached to this report. So option 1 also requires a motion from council allocating just over $407,000 to reserves. There was a suggested motion included in the report, but that can be changed by council if they so wish. So there's a Parks Capital Reserve, which is what's reflected in the motion. There's Admin Capital Reserve. There's, if council wants to change the suggested one, it can go to an operating or capital contingency reserve and be dealt with at a later date. Option 1 is also attached to the report with the proposed tax rates, which we'll get to shortly. After the last meeting, the option 1 was circulated to the public, put out on our news hub and Engage, as well as socials. And I believe just one comment was received, and I believe that was dealt with by the communications, our esteemed Mr. Waldo, and the mayor was involved in answering that. So that's the only feedback that I'm aware of. I don't know if Mr. Waldo has anything to add.
That is correct. There were no other formal pieces of communication or feedback provided to administration.
Yeah, so with that, we're just looking for council to discuss and approve the 2025 operating budget.
Excellent. Let's start with, are there any questions from council? Councillor Dakin.
My question is, the recommendation is for council to approve the Town of Sylvan Lake's 2025 operating budget. You gave us 6 options, and my question for you, Darren, is that given what you know, you're the specialist in this, which option would you pick? Knowing the issues that we face.
Through the chair. Yeah, you know, I think what council's doing is prudent. You know, as we'll see later in the meeting too, we did have a surplus from the 2024 fiscal year, but keep in mind that's the first surplus in operations we've had since before the pandemic. You know, we've always got challenges facing us and pressures that council's certainly fully aware of. So I think what's been chosen is a prudent option.
Additional questions? Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Payne.
I move that council approve a transfer to the Parks Capital Reserve of $407,200 as included in the 2025 operating budget. That council approve the Town of Sylvan Lake's 2025 operating budget of $72,331,067.
Excellent. Do we have any debate? Councillor Mearns.
Just a comment on that. When we put out surveys to the public before budget process and asked, you know, what the level of comfort is on a tax increase or no tax increase, and this is in the package that was put out post that survey, that over 50% of the community would support a tax increase to maintain service levels or increase service levels. The option we have here is that there is no tax increase, and we have an opportunity to put some money into reserves. To Mr. Moore's point, there's some challenges that we'll have ahead. We talked about a great deal about our reserve balances during the budget process, and the budget process is probably one of the biggest things council does, and appreciate administration's feedback. So I see this as a win for our community where there's no tax increase, plus an opportunity to put some money in the bank for those needs that are coming up. So it's definitely something I support, and happy to have a 0% increase for 2025.
I'll add in my comment. If there's any part of our budget that keeps me up at night, it is our dwindling reserve levels over the last decade. It's been tough to see that funding from other sources has decreased annually, year after year, and that we haven't been approved for some of the grants that we'd really hoped and banked on in many ways that would help supplement some of our big costs coming up. So anything we can do to put a little bit away into that account. I know we have a 5-year capital plan that we've all approved. I also know that there's lots of things in that plan or on the edge of that plan that we don't actually have funding for. So they're in the plan, and we don't have the funds to get there yet. So appreciate that this brings up a little bit of that reserve level, but man, we still have a lot of work to do, and I hope that we know that a lot of that work can't come from our residents. A lot of that is a provincial conversation, and I hope that we can get back to levels of years past so that we can build a budget that we can count on year after year. But yeah, Councillor Dakin.
Although I know how this is going to end, I still need to say my part, otherwise I'm not doing my job. I do have a big issue with this, and I know that it looks good on paper, but it's because the valuation of somebody's house went up 8.5%. That's somebody that is on fixed income that has an 8.5% increase because of the valuation of the property in their town of Sylvan Lake. They might have bought it 40 years ago, and they have seen dramatic increases, and this is one of the opportunities, as I've said before, where we could come back a little bit but still be ahead of the budget that we already approved. I do also echo that I am afraid of our reserves. I know that it's a real issue, and maybe at our last meeting I was a little zealous in my request. But I do still like option number 2 because it doesn't increase, on top of everything else, their fees, which is in the next conversation. I know we'll get there, but I'm not okay with option 1. I think we can do better, and I just need to voice that. So when I vote no, and I am an island, that is why.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor by Councillor, I didn't note a name, Councillor Payne. Thank you. My notes failed me there. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Next, we'll move along to the 2025 property tax bylaw first reading. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Hansen. Yeah, with this report tonight, we're just looking for first reading to the property tax bylaw 1921-2025, establishing the 2025 property tax rate. So again, this is based on option 1, as was just discussed by council, which is to leave the core municipal rate unchanged and increasing the transportation and recreation levies as outlined there in the report. One thing I wanted to mention to council this evening, so there's been some discussion, and we've heard from some other municipalities in the last few days about a possible pending mail strike the 3rd week of May. So what we were planning on doing, if council gives your blessing, is to send out tax notices a couple weeks earlier this year. Probably the 2nd week of May, so people will get them a couple weeks earlier than normal, which doesn't really affect much. We'll have to notify some of the lawyers' offices and stuff like that, but the payment deadline, appeals deadline will all be the same. Nothing changes. So it's just a matter of trying to avoid that chaos of potentially having to send notices out during a mail strike, so we don't want that. So that's something we were planning on proceeding with. After 3rd reading of the bylaw, of course. And with that, I don't have much to add unless there's any questions from council.
No.
Okay.
Is there any additional questions? The mail strike comment gives me a question, and I know I've often said this, but are we making any progress on getting folks that have access to digital means off of their paper bills? I know that is a huge monthly cost to the municipality. How do we get closer to there? I think that last mail strike was hopefully boosted the numbers of those that signed up for online. How do we continue that progress so we get to a point where only those who don't have online access are the only ones that are receiving a bill?
Yeah, it's a great point. Great question, Mayor Hansen. So, you know, we're continually trying to do that with people when they sign up, or properties change hands and they sign up for utilities and taxes, pushing that with people. I believe we're around 2,000 properties. Nina's nodding her head. Currently out of about 8,000, so around 25% are we receiving electronically. So it's a good reminder. I think that we maybe need to have another blitz and promote it more and, you know, on socials and everything, work with communications on that. But I certainly agree, the more we can get doing that, the better.
Be great to do that ahead of, you know, May as a potential, that this is a great opportunity, because just in case, no one liked having their bills caught up for a substantial amount of time the last time. Let's not get there again. And I don't know if you know that cost. You probably don't off the top of your head, but I know what the cost of a postage stamp is now, and what we send out monthly must be substantial. So to me, that's just another area that we can easily save for those that receive many of their other bills that way.
Yep, great point.
Excellent. Any other questions, or would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Rilling.
I move that council gives first reading to bylaw 1921/2025, establishing the 2025 property tax rates as outlined in AIR 1126.
Excellent. Do we have any comments on this? All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor and opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. Okay, the final of the financial list tonight is the 2024 fiscal year unaudited financial reports. Mr. Moore.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Hansen. So with this report, just wanted to bring what we have called the unaudited financial reports to council, a little different picture than what you will see with the upcoming audited financial reports presented by RSM at the scheduled to be at the next regular meeting of council on April 28th. So this provides a little more detail at the department level for council and the public to see where we ended up for the 2024 fiscal year on the operating side. So these reports did go to corporate services last week. And so I'll just highlight some of the major changes. As I did mention earlier, we did have a result of $1.3 million surplus from operations last fiscal year. So we saw wages and benefits under budget due to extended vacancies in planning, development, finance, and protective services. We experienced strong revenue from user fees in recreation, culture, tourism, and have essentially returned to pre-pandemic levels. Revenue in planning development from permits was very strong this past year due to a robust construction environment. And once again, our investment interest income was higher than budgeted due to interest rates remaining higher for most of the year and improved cash balances. Again, as mentioned, discussed at corporate services. So with this surplus from 2024, administration is recommending council defer discussion and decision on how to allocate this 2024 fiscal year surplus until September of this year, sorry. When administration will be bringing forth a reserve policy for council's consideration. And then council can decide at that time to allocate funds from unrestricted to restricted surplus or reserves during that process. So at this time, no motion is required by council unless council so chooses or wishes to make one this evening. They certainly can, but that is administration's recommendation. With that, I won't go into too much detail unless there's any questions from council.
Let's start with that. Any questions? I'm confused by your last statement about the no motion.
Oh, well, we would still like a motion for you to accept them, yes.
Okay.
But not one to allocate the surplus at this time.
Sorry, thank
Yes.
you. I got myself
apologies.
confused there. I'm like, but wait a minute. Okay, so we have no questions, council. Would someone like to make that motion? Councilor Mearns.
Make a motion The council accept the 2024 fiscal year unaudited financial report as information presented in AIR 1137.
Excellent. Comments, debate? I'll note for those in the gallery, there often isn't extensive comments because we also host a corporate services meeting where 3 councillors have the chance to really deep dive in on these questions, and often that beefs up the notes, which answers most of our questions for us. So it's not that we just looked at a whole year of financials and there's nothing that we've asked, it's that we had that opportunity and we've been able to have that elaboration through the notes, but we did go through them in great detail just last week. Excellent. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor and opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Next, we've got correspondence and information items. Do we have any questions on those, Councillor? Council. I do. I just want to point out in the fire department stats, something that we talked about probably a year, maybe 2 years ago. And I'm noticing it's starting to creep up, and it's the collective number of medical assists that our fire department goes on. My math between being first on scene and second on scene is that so far this year they've attended 43 medical incidents. And you know, part of that conversation is this another download from another area that should be covering medical type calls that now our department is going to, and a department that goes to 600 calls a year. It's quite busy of volunteers, so to add an additional, you know, maybe by the end of the year, 100 plus calls that are just for medical, it is something that we should be paying attention to that number. I don't know if we sound the red alarm now, but I'm always cautious as that creeps up, and is that something that we as council need to pay more attention to? Because we did a couple of years ago, and then we saw there were some changes, I don't think due to us. I think there was just some systematic changes that happened, and we saw that number decrease, and to me, this looks like another increase that I don't love, because our fire department they're trained to fight fires. They shouldn't necessarily be, in my opinion, the first on scene or even the second for most medical calls. So just raising that to note. And also thanks to our department who spent a very long night out doing their work last night. So hopefully we don't have much more of that action in the next couple of weeks, because I think it's going to be another dry year. Do we have any other comments or questions out of all those information reports? Seeing none, appreciate all the minutes that are attached. We'll move along to the CAO report. Mrs. Phillips.
All right, are you ready? We are busy. And I know that Anna already summarized these notes, but there's still a lot of information here, so I'll try to get through it. Wellness and community connections, community services. We have a volunteer information night at the end of April, April 30th, as well as some board development training in May and June. Social master plan focus group regarding a study that we're working on in that area on May 8th. Also, Mandy Wishu received the Choose Well Healthy Community Initiatives or Community Inspiration Award. This celebrated the efforts and achievements in promoting healthy eating and active living across Alberta, so well done, Mandy. The Volunteer Centre was also successful in a grant for $600 for from Volunteer Alberta for Volunteer Week activities. So, older adult services, we've got a Grand Pals Spring Tea Party in April, as well as taking action against elder abuse training. In youth services, Youth Week, there's a lot of activities going on from May 1st to 7th. They're listed there for council's review. And Mental Health Week, May 5th to 11th, which features the Sleeve and Stigma campaign. Lemonade registration, there's 80 participants, so an increase of 250% from last year. So that's exciting. I love that program, it's so great. And nominations are closed for the Sparks Awards with 110 nominations received. So again, another great program. Parks and Protective Services, Pagato Park, campground is, bookings are open, and the campground opens on May 16th. And the anticipated date for the Quad Ball Diamonds is scheduled to open April 28th, as long as weather supports that, of course, for maintenance. Minor ball and slow pitch start the last week of April. And then the Red Deer Regional Emergency Management Partnership is planning a large-scale exercise that would impact all areas for practicing our emergency management. So Planning and Development, again, a very busy department. Everyone seems incredibly busy. Subdivision was approved in the Greyhawk neighborhood. This includes 38 residential narrow lot duplex residential lots and 1 public facility. And then there's reports attached from Planning and Development regarding the new business report, development decisions, building statistics, and building permit summary. Public Works, street sweeping started last week, anticipated to take 2 to 3 weeks. April 1st marks the beginning of the extended producer responsibility program. It's we'll see significant benefits as a municipality, and fortunately the residents won't notice a change. It's just a transition and how that happens, or is funded, sorry. Fortis Alberta installed 4 new streetlights along Memorial Trail between Highway 20 and Riders Ridge Boulevard, and there is some landscaping that'll be finished in that area. And the traffic signals at 50th Ave and 50th Street are ready to go. We're just waiting for coordination with the CN to sync the signals. And Public Works and Planning and Development applied for a Canada Housing and Infrastructure Fund grant in the amount of $4,491,055 for the South Annex Lands water and wastewater trunk main extensions. Recreation and Culture, pickleball is moving back to the Nexor Center for the spring. And there's several activities added for the spring break, including stick and puck times, public swim times, and schools out day camp. And spring and summer activity registration is opened as well. Special events, culture and tourism, end of April, beginning of May, the Tourism Experience Development, or TED, Business Skills Workshop is happening, and there's registration online. And Travel Alberta was awarded a $50,000 grant for the future TED program and tourism marketing initiatives. So it's exciting. And the town of Sylvan Lake is partnering with the Sylvan Lake News to produce the summer 2025 edition, Discover Sylvan Lake, on stands for early in May. And the tourism staff are working on redesigning the website. Upcoming events on April 22nd, we have Earth Day with the Healing Hub planned. This is a Culture, Parks, and WCC have teamed up for this program. June 6th and 7th is 1913 Days, and the schedules and details are found online at visitsylvanlake.ca, 1913 Days. Other grants, there's a couple other micro grants that for 2025, Sylvan Lake Art Society of $2,000, Sylvan Lake Filipino Canadian Society at $4,000, pending a special events application form, and African Society for Culture, Economic Development, and Arts of $2,000. And then our You Can Play 2 program, the allocations to date are $6,355 that have impacted 388 residents to be able to participate in our programs. And Economic Development, on April 24th, we have the Town of Sylvan Lake and Chamber of Commerce 2025 Business Mixer, and that was attached as well.
Excellent. Do we have any questions on the CAO report? Seeing none. I love that we're seeing the microgrant applications that have come in, and I'm interested in what some of those events will look like. So stay tuned. With no questions, Council, do we have any requests for information or updates? Councilor Willing.
I have a couple. I had a request from somebody in my area, like not in Peerview, but in Crestview. When you come off of Centennial, right there at the police station, and it's a really great S shape on Crestview. Mm-hmm. And what the request is that people actually park right on that corner, and sometimes even with like big rigs, like, you know, campers and everything. And if there was any way that we could, because it's really hard to get around there, and in winter especially, there can be real problems. So that was their request. So if we can just maybe look into that because of the danger of it, that's all. Sure. And my second one is a crosswalk from Mr. Waldo. What is your street name?
Peterson Way.
Peterson Way.
It's not my request.
No, it is not his request, but I know that he lives on that street because I see him all the time. But right from, there is, the sidewalk ends, and there are lots of kids who walk across that street, and there is not markings at all on the street. And all I'm asking for is markings on that street, because there's just no place for them to go except on the street. And I just think it's just a small little part that we can play.
If I could offer my suggestion, and I think both of those are noted, would be also to use the concerns form, because we do have a traffic allocation or traffic something policy
Yep.
that does deal with some of this, and putting it through there would allow it to be filtered through that policy lens.
Okay.
And have the right people take a peek at it. So I'd first encourage the resident who put that in to enter that directly. If not, sometimes I'm known to enter my own requests in there.
Okay.
But might be a great way to get it to the right people as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Deegan.
Thank you. Question about the lights. When are we expecting to see the lights turn on? It's getting awfully close to May Long, and I turn at that corner a lot, and I think either I'm a worse driver or it's more dangerous now.
Can't remember who, was this Amjad? I believe it was by the end of the month, maybe.
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Dakin. At this point, we're waiting for them to be activated, and we're hoping by the end of the month. But yeah, fingers crossed.
That's a great question. I think we've all wondered it every time we go through that intersection. I have a couple around Pocattle Park. The first one is, when we originally opened that park, I know the playground up there, the vision was that this would be a year-round park, but we closed it for the winter seasons for a couple of years because there was construction and other activities happening. Are we almost at the point where this winter, unless there's construction, that we can keep the gates open, not to the spray park, but to the actual playground year-round? Or is there a reason why we're gatekeeping that into April? Because when it's beautiful in February, I see people at Centennial Park, and I think it'd be great to have access to that facility year-round as well. Okay, great. And my secondary is just a follow-up question around the spray park policy. Really hoping we were able to have that weather policy in place prior to the start of the season. So when that one question could be answered, the other one could come. Oh, although Mr. Lebsack is excited to share something.
I would love to answer for you. It's written, it just needs to be put into the proper format.
Fantastic. And hopefully then it can, the answer was it's written, just needs to be put into the proper format, be put on the website so that residents just all know what to expect when it's freezing cold. There may not be water on all days, and even if your kid wants it to be. I joked before, but it's very true. I would actually be happier to bring my kids there on a cold day when I know the water's not going to turn on, because although it wouldn't be wise to go in it, kids aren't always known for that. So. Any other requests for information and updates, Council? All right, seeing none, I have a notice of motion. It is, and this is just my first read of it, so we won't do any discussion. I'll just put it on the floor, but it's a motion to request that Sylvan Lake specific budget information be shared with Council within 72 hours following the annual provincial budget announcement. This request aims to enhance our understanding of how the budget changes will impact our community. The information provided should cover the following topics. 1, specific funding changes from the province to the municipality compared to previous years. 2, areas of disappointment. 3, areas of excitement. And 4, areas of caution that should be brought to Council's attention. And this is just an ongoing request. It was information we've requested this year and in some forms in previous years, but just putting it on the books now that you're here, that in future years we'd love for that to just be an automatic ask, so that when Council is asked how does that affect you in the days following the budget, we're prepared to answer that with a little bit more education than we've been able to in the past. So that is my motion. We will vote on that at the next meeting. With that, we've reached the end of our agenda, so this meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.